Okay, let's do it. Okay, social media. Sorry. So when I was requested to talk on this topic, I don't take it very lightly, because the last thing you guys need is another influencer getting up here and being like, hey guys, so let me tell you about how famous I am, and I think you should be famous like me. Yeah, okay. That was my intentionally genuine, authentic influencer voice. Thank you, right? I know, I'm really good at that. So that's what I did not want to do, right? Because then you guys are all just gonna roll your eyes back in your head and be like, great, another narcissist that they flew out here to lecture us. So that's not what I wanted to do. And the reason why I say this is because I worked in a salon for 10 years, and the owner was actually my mentor, my hair mom, you could say. She had been my hairstylist since I was about 13 years old. And I was her salon educator. Back in the day, I was doing a network educator program with Bumble and Bumble, and traveling and continuing my education there in Sassoon and Toni and Guy, and flying to London and Paris and New York and LA and San Francisco, and coming back and doing teach backs and then running the assistant program. And so I was doing education already for 8 years. And at that time, I thought what I was working towards was to be her salon partner. And when I offered her partnership, she ended up turning me down and then partnering with somebody who was more social media famous than me. So at that time, it really felt like a really big rejection in my career and almost like an industry breakup. And so it was a scary time for me, because I was like, where am I gonna go? What direction am I gonna take next? Same time, me and my husband were about ready to start a family. And so I'm like, how am I gonna become a mom? And I have so much ambition, and I'm not ready to just quit. And at the same time, this partnership didn't work out. So then I was in this staff meeting, and this new salon partner, who has the most followers on Instagram in the room, comes up and she says to the staff, "You are nobody without a following on Instagram." You're nobody. What is, so wait, how many followers do you have to have before you are somebody, right? What? Excuse me? So at that point, I had realized there was a shift in the hierarchies. And so what I mean by that is, the first decade of my career was this traditional hierarchy of the brands and the academies, and they were the ones that were in control of the spread of information. And the good thing about it was based on talent, it was based on loyalty, it was based on skill level and training. And then what happened was social media came out and completely disrupted. And now this new hierarchy is all about being an early adapter to technology, about being a great entertainer, and also having the time to pivot. Meaning, if you were really busy behind the chair, when Instagram popped off, maybe you didn't jump on the train early enough. So these kids who are young and have time on their hands and know how to use technology are the ones who now become popular. And the thing that can be really hard for some of us who spent a decade and spent $100,000 on education are now being passed up from somebody who is maybe they're good at doing hair, but maybe they're not a great educator. But anyone now can call themselves an educator. There's no vetting. Now, that's the negative. The positive, however, is the fact that it's giving exposure to other people that otherwise would not have the opportunity. Meaning, myself being a mom in a suburb, and I was working part-time behind the chair so I could be with my kids, working 3 days a week, being 3 days a week home with my kids, in the safety of the suburbs. I wasn't working 60 hours a week by the time I had a kid in, let's say, for example, Beverly Hills or Manhattan, and I wasn't working for a big brand. So therefore, how would I have had the opportunity to become a global educator like this? So in that case, it's good because it's giving exposure to the real people behind the chair like myself. So this is what took me a really long time to process. Because if we give her the benefit of the doubt, her saying you're nobody without a following on social media, what she's saying is it's very important to market yourself online. So, okay, let's give her the benefit of the doubt there. And it is true that I would not be here today with you without this, right? So, some truth in the statement. However, where is the lie? Because there is a lie somewhere in that, isn't there? The lie is this. If you're going to give a speech, you have to consider your audience. If you are a salon owner and you are talking to your team, then what should she have said? She should have said this. You are in this room. So therefore, you are somebody. So let's use social media to show everyone else how badass we are. Okay? So what social media is and what social media is not is the number one thing I want to tell you first. Okay? Social media is an accelerator. Back in the day, when we had to build a clientele, we had to wait for walk-ins, we had to hand out our cards at the mall, we had to wait for our clients to refer other clients, word of mouth. Now, maybe one client can tell 10 people, and maybe, I don't know, 2 out of the 10 end up coming to see us. It was a very slow, hard way to build, okay? Now, with a click of a button, I can tell 10,000 people at once. So social media is an accelerator to word of mouth, all right? So think of it like this. Gasoline is an accelerator to fire, right? So if we pour gasoline onto fire, what happens? Right? It explodes. So in this example, you are the fire. Social media is what you pour on your flames. You are the fire. There already has to be something burning before you can blow up. So first, before we go into anything, I want to encourage you in this, because we are all artists, all of us, and we all do things so incredibly different. But that is what is so unique and incredible about us being here together, is that we are uniquely gifted. Our art is our gift, and that gift is not intended to feed our own ego. That gift is meant to be given. It's meant to be a blessing, right? And so how can we bless people through this global exposure, this platform? Okay? So I'm going to go quickly through these slides since we don't have a lot of time. Is it not working? Technical difficulties. Thank you. So we talked about these hierarchies already. We talked about pros and cons. Okay, influence. What does this mean? Because we say the term influencer, right? So to influence, the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of somebody. That's intense. That's a big responsibility, you guys. So when you think about servant leadership and giving this gift as a service, we are in the service industry, then the more followers you have, it's like more clientele. And our clients are who we work for. So ultimately, our clients are like our bosses. We're here to serve them. So the larger your following is, the more bosses you have. So when you're asking for this social media fame, you have to also think about what you're asking for. More responsibility, because you're influencing more people. All right, so educator. What is the definition of an educator? All of us here are educators, and this is something I thought about too in consideration of my audience, because when Nicholas asked me to do this, he said, take into consideration who you're talking to. This is not maybe people who are trying to all be social media famous. Maybe they're educators and they just want to learn a little bit about tips and tricks. But I didn't want to come here and just give you tips and tricks, because an educator is a teacher of truth and how it applies to their life. So in this case, our truth is our technique, our theory, and our systems. And the application is how it improves the service of hairdressing. So if we're teachers, how is this very different than being an influencer? We influence people because of our education, don't we? So there's really not that much difference between an influencer and an educator. All right, so some of you might say, oh, but I have imposter syndrome. I don't know, like, not me, right? But this is the challenge I have for you guys today in this room, because we are some of the top hairdressers from around the world. Like, how huge is that? Like, what a privilege is that to be here together and be at this level? Like, it makes me want to cry, like literally. It's so amazing. But at the same time, is this who we see at the top of this new social media hierarchy? Not necessarily all the time. And if we are sitting back and looking and seeing who is at the top of this new hierarchy, and we are not happy with this new leadership in the industry, then this is my challenge to you. It's not about your insecurity. It's about your responsibility. Where's the future? Where's the future for our industry? And do we care? And if we care, but we don't offer ourselves up as an alternative for the leadership, then we are part of the problem. So that's my challenge to you. Okay? So how are we going to do this? We have to learn new technology. So we have to be fearless in believing that we can. Technology is super intimidating. Personally, I struggle a lot. So I'll tell you what I do in a minute. You have to be resilient in your pursuit of relevance and finding what resonates. Things are constantly changing. If I come up here and give you tips and tricks, tomorrow the algorithm is going to change, it's going to be different. You have to be resilient, meaning you have to continue to put out content and try. Something is going to go viral and you're like, I wasn't even proud of that. And then something you're really proud of goes nowhere. But you have to keep going. You cannot give up. You have to be secure despite being at the bottom of a new hierarchy. This is where it really sucks, guys, because the thing is 1 minute you're on top, the cheese moves, and now you're back at the bottom. It's frustrating, and now you gotta start over again. But this is the thing. I think it's time for a third hierarchy because the cream has to rise to the top. Generational collaboration. This is a picture of some of my team members. This was a couple weeks ago at Orlando Premiere. This is my booth in the background there. I've got different people that I travel with from around the country. Depending on what classes I'm teaching and where I am, I bring in different team members from different areas. We're very diverse, from 20s into 50s, from all different ethnicities and specialities. I do once a year collaborative training and collections with them as well to create the content. And the thing that's really unique about this is they bring a lot of information to me about how to create different styles of content. For example, I have my texture artist here, and we do collaborations with textured hair, and we talk about how to translate the techniques for curls. I have another team member who's not in this picture, who is really young and really great with social media, and he's like, Ashley, what are you doing here? No, girl, let me show you. But he's also only been in the industry for 2 years, and I've been training him, mentoring him in the decades of knowledge, so we have something to trade. The young kids, they have the technology, we have the years of experience. So we can get together. Hey, I will teach you, you teach me. We all have something to learn together. Generational collaboration. Okay, so what else? Competition versus collaboration. Are we using content creation to climb to the top at the expense of one another, or are we combining our gifts to work together to achieve a common goal based off of our shared value system, right? So this is about community. This is really important because you want to work with a team of people that truly believes that if I make you shine, we all shine brighter, rather than trying to shine at the expense of our own team members. So if there is a team member who is with you who does not have that mentality and is worried more about competing and being on top and being your pet or being your number one favorite, that's toxic, right? So for example, even me being here today, teaching you my geodesic, right? This is a technique that I teach in my own independent education for my own personal brand. Coming here today for Essential Looks and training you is a risk for me in a way because I'm giving you my intellectual property. But this is what I believe. I believe if I'm here and I give you a little something and you become better, we all become better as a community, okay? So, lastly, live out loud. People like to buy from people, not from brands. People want to purchase things from people they like. It's easy enough to understand. So you have to build a human connection. You have to be brave enough to tell your story. You have to share your joy. So my Instagram is very personal. If you follow my stories, you're going to see me a lot at home, you know, wearing yoga pants, no makeup and hair in a messy bun and hanging out with my 3 kids. Because this is my whole life. This is who I am. It's scary to be transparent. It's scary to be open. And it's hard to tell your story because sometimes we don't even take the time to know our own story. When's the last time you sat down, even maybe in therapy, for example, like me and my husband, we're high school sweethearts. We've been together, married now for 17 years, together for 23. We've done a lot of therapy to get through all those years, friends. One of the things we used to do was write our story because we had to remember when we fell in love and we had to not forget that this is part of the journey. And whatever part of the journey that you're in, it's okay. It's not the end. But this is the story you have to tell because that's what's going to resonate with people. I believe part of my success is the fact that I share my family life because how many women are moms who work part-time behind the chair and are hairdressers? That's a large percentage of our industry. And so they say thank you for being out there because I push for things like pump breaks. When I came for Color Crafters, I was like, I need a pump break. You guys got a pumping room? We should all have pumping rooms in salons. But unless women, mothers, are here to be on top and be a representative of our population, then who's gonna do it for us? You know, who's gonna lead that charge? Lastly, sharing your joy. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, so social media can really affect your mental health. Why? It can go here. So how can this affect our mental health? Number one, comparison. So there's a definition of mental health that I really like, and it's that positive emotion is generated by the sense of progress. So if we don't feel like we're progressing, that's when we have negative emotions. If we compare ourselves to other people, then we can feel like we're not progressing in comparison to them, and this can make us feel depressed. If we compare ourselves to ourselves yesterday, then we can see our own progress and celebrate it. Don't wrap your identity in a number at the top of a social media app. Again, you are the fire. Instagram is just the accelerator that you pour on that flame. Go. So, service industry. Serve your online community in the same way that you serve your clientele. Why is someone going to follow you unless you're adding value to them? So how can you add value? You can entertain them, encourage laughter, celebrate progression. You can educate them, teach them truth. This is important, right? Truth. Because sometimes education is really about creating something that is just going to go viral because it looks cool, which is great, but at the same time, where is the value in that ultimately in the long run? Inspire and spread hope. This is the biggest, most important thing, is spreading hope. When someone messages me from across the world, like for example, I had someone from Iran, a woman in Iran. I mean, the things that are going on there for women and mothers is like crazy. And she even told me, like, I saw you and I saw what you were doing and you inspired me to believe that I could do it. And I took your Instagram, and tears were on my phone, and I showed my father what you have done, and he allowed me to go to beauty school. And now she's still working in a private suite, even now, to this day, and I sent her online education, and she has a small team of women that she's training. Thank you. So lastly, what I want to say is think about this word legacy. This is really important. What will you leave behind? There's a book by Stephen Covey. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the habits is to begin with the end in mind. So what that means is think about where you want to end and then work backwards. For me, if I think about the end, let's say I'm lucky and I get to live into my, 80s, for example, and it's Christmas Day. What does that look like? For me, it's a house full of grandkids and having relationships with my children still, because I wasn't gone every single weekend. I made a point to create work-life balance. This is why when I travel, when I come home, I'm not working behind the chair right now, because when I'm home, I need to be home and I need to be present. And so finding that balance and keeping what's important, number one. So when it comes to your social media and your legacy, think about the impact that you're leaving. And when you retire and you walk away from this industry, what is that legacy that you have left behind by using a global platform like social media to spread your story, your truth? That's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.